warm June night, Julio lit up a kerosene lamp. Then he sat down holding a piece of paper and a pencil on his hands, as he is going to write a letter of all people to Kapunso, his landlord. But before we continue as to what the letter is Julio writing about, first let's have a flashback. So when Julio's wife Fidela gave birth to a baby named Jose, Kapunso, which happened to be visiting his property, then offered to become its godfather. After that, they began to call each other compadre, and as time passes by, Julio and Kapunso's friendship grew stronger, so whenever Julio needed a helping hand, Kapunso was one call away. And this was seen during the very first month after their arrival from Tablas. They had received 5 gavanas of rice from Kapunso, and from that moment on, Julio sees Kapunso as his compadre spiritual, as they call it, a true friend. When Jose was in 5th grade, he had to stop schooling because they had to leave Tablas and move to Mindoro, because his father Julio had some difficulty in getting some land of his own to farm, and they had to prioritize owning a farm to earn some dime for their everyday living. Before Julio thought of writing a letter to Kapunso, he had gone to the municipio in Mansalay to file a homestead application. But month has passed, he didn't receive any confirmation regarding his request, although Kapunso had assured him he had looked into the matter and talked with the officials concerned. But now that it seems his request to the municipio might be oversaw, he came up with an idea on writing a letter to Kapunso asking a financial support for his son Jose. The flashback is done, and again Julio's letter is about his son Jose. While Julio is gathering his thoughts, he also realized that the kerosene lamp's yellow flame flickered ceaselessly. The dank smell of food, fish broth, particularly that had been spilled from many a bowl and had dried on the form, now seemed to rise from the very texture of the wood itself. The stark truth about their poverty, if Julio's nature had been sensitive to it, might have been struck him then with a hard and sudden blow. But, as it was, he just looked about the room, even as the smell assailed his nostrils, and stared now at the mosquito net, now at Jose as he lay there by the door. Then he continued with his letter. "This boy, Jose, compadre," he went on, "is quite an industrious lad. If only you can let him stay in your big house, compadre, you can make him do anything you wish, any work. He can cook rice, and I'm sure he'll do well washing the dishes. I hope you will not think of this as a great bother," Julio continued, trying his best to phrase his thoughts. He had a vague fear that Kapunso might not favorably regard his letter, but he wrote on slowly and steadily, stopping only to read what he had put down. "We shall repay you for whatever you can do for us, compadre. It's true we already owe you for many things, but your comadre and I will do all we can indeed to repay you." Suddenly, he began wondering how Jose would move about in Kapunso's household, being unaccustomed to so many things there. The boy might even stumble over a chair and break some dishes. He feared for the boy. "And I wish you would treat Jose as you would your own son, compadre. You may beat him if he should commit some wrong, and indeed I want him to look up to you as a second father." Julio felt he had nothing more to say, and that he had written the longest letter in all his life. For a moment his fingers felt numb, and this was a funny thing, he thought, because he had scarcely filled the page. He sat back again and smiled to himself. He had completed the letter. He had feared he would never be able to write it, but now it was done, and it seemed the letter would read well. The next day, he must send Jose off. "Mind to look after the letter?" he called out from where he was. "Do you have it there in your pocket?" The boy fumbled for it. When he had found it, he said, "No, Tatay, I won't lose it. And take good care of the carabao," Julio added. "I'll go to town myself in a day or two to get that carabao back. I just want to be done first with the planting." Then Julio started to walk back to his house, thinking of the work that awaited him in his clearing that day. But he thought of something more to tell his son, and so he stopped and called out to him again. "And that letter," he shouted, "give it to Caponso as soon as you reach town. Then be good and do everything he asks you to do. Remember everything." From atop the carabaos he yelled, "Yes, Tatay, yes," and rode away. A stand of abaca plants, their green leaves glimmering in the morning sun, soon concealed him from view. Fastened to his saddle was his bundle of clothes and a little package of rice, food to last him all through his first week in town. It was customary for schoolboys from the barrio or farm to provide themselves in this simple manner. In Jose's case, although he was going to live at Caponsos, it could not be said that his father had forgotten about this little matter concerning food. Thinking of his father, Jose grew suddenly curious about the letter he carried in his shirt pocket. He stopped his carabao under a shady tree by the roadside. A bird sung in a bush hard by. Jose could hear it even as he read the letter. Jumping from word to word, for him the dialect was quite difficult, but as the meaning of each sentence became clear to him, he experienced a curious exultation. It was as though he were the happiest boy in the world and that the bird was singing for him. He heard the rumbling of the stream far away. There he and his father had parted. The world seemed full of bird song and music from the stream.